The day I discovered the truth felt like a jolt of lightning through my heart. I never imagined I would find myself in this situation. My life turned upside down by betrayal. I had been married to James for nearly 5 years, and I thought our love was strong enough to withstand anything. We were the kind of couple who shared everything, from dreams of the future to the minutiae of daily life. But that bond shattered the moment I found the explicit messages on his phone. It started innocently enough. I was just looking for a recipe I had saved in his notes. While scrolling, I noticed an unfamiliar conversation. My heart raced as I opened the messages, and a sinking feeling gripped my stomach. The words jumped out at me: intimate exchanges. Photos that should have been private. I couldn't believe what I was reading. My husband was having an affair with my sister. My sister, Amanda, and I had always been close. We were practically inseparable, sharing secrets, dreams, and life decisions. I had confided in her about my struggles with work and my fears about starting a family. Trusting her to understand, the realization that she was involved with James was unbearable. It felt like being stabbed in the back by two people I loved most in the world. The days that followed were a blur of pain and confusion. I confronted James immediately, my heart pounding as I demanded the truth. He looked at me, and for a moment, I thought I might see regret or guilt in his eyes. Instead, he admitted to the affair, claiming he felt neglected and lost in our marriage. He explained that his connection with Amanda had been an escape, a way to cope with his dissatisfaction. Those words echoed in my mind: escape. Momentary lapse in judgment, sounding so hollow and insincere. I wanted to scream. How could he trivialize what he had done? This wasn't just a small mistake, it was a conscious choice to betray me over the course of a year. I felt the anger boiling within me, mixing with heartbreak. The life we had built together felt like a fragile house of cards, crumbling under the weight of his deceit. And then there was Amanda. When I finally gathered the strength to reach out to her, I thought she would be as devastated as I was. Instead, she gave me an apology that felt rehearsed, almost robotic. It was never serious, she insisted. It just happened a couple of times. It was just for fun. I could hardly process what she was saying. My sister was trying to downplay their betrayal as if it were a harmless fling. How could she think it was acceptable to engage with my husband? How could they both trivialize this? As I stepped back to collect my thoughts, I realized this wasn't just about the affair. It was about trust. Trust that had been shattered in the most painful way. I had noticed red flags leading up to this revelation. James had become secretive with his phone, often locking it when I was around. His work hours had changed drastically, with late nights that often seemed suspicious. I had brushed off my instincts, convincing myself that everything was fine. But looking back, I could see how quickly things had escalated. The hardest part of all this was the emotional toll it took on me. I felt blindsided, left to navigate the murky waters of betrayal alone. The bond I had shared with my sister was shattered, and every memory felt tainted. Even as she moved out of town to give me space, the anger and hurt remained fresh. I couldn't imagine ever having a relationship with her again. I spent sleepless nights replaying the events over and over in my head. The laughter we shared, the secrets we confided in one another, it all felt like a lie. I had invested so much into my relationship with James and my sister, only to have them both betray me in the worst possible way. I didn't want to talk to anyone about what happened. Friends and family didn't need to know the details. I wanted to shield them from the heartbreak I felt. In the following weeks, I took time for myself. I sought solace in my work, pouring myself into my projects as a distraction from the pain. I also began to reflect on what I truly wanted. Leaving James felt like the only choice that made sense. I couldn't bear the thought of staying with someone who had shattered my trust so completely. As I started to make plans for my future, I felt a sense of empowerment. I decided to focus on my own happiness rather than the relationships I had lost. I surrounded myself with friends who cared for me, people who lifted me up instead of dragging me down. I realized that I didn't need to be defined by my past. I could shape my own narrative moving forward. In the end, I made the decision to end my relationship with James. The thought of facing him again filled me with dread. But I knew it was time to reclaim my life. I deserved to be with someone who valued me, Someone who would never betray my trust. Though the process of breaking away was painful, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders with each passing day. In time, I began to heal. I learned that betrayal, while incredibly painful, could lead to personal growth and renewed strength. As I embraced this new chapter of my life, I felt a sense of hope. I had endured the storm, and now it was time to step into the light. My journey taught me that love and trust are fundamental to any relationship. I emerged stronger, more resilient, and ready to embrace whatever the future held for me. I had learned to stand up for myself and demand the respect I deserved. And in doing so, I rediscovered my own worth.
I had always believed my marriage was solid, a fortress built on love, trust, and mutual respect. For 10 years, I had shared my life with Sarah, my wife. We built a beautiful family together, raising our 2 kids, Lily and Ethan, who brought joy into our lives. But as with any relationship, shadows can creep in, and sometimes those shadows manifest into doubts that threaten to unravel everything you hold dear. The trouble began when Ethan, our 5-year-old, was diagnosed with a rare genetic condition. At first, I was blindsided. We had no history of genetic issues in either of our families. And the news shook me to my core. I watched as Sarah took the news with grace, her motherly instincts kicking in. She was determined to do everything she could to help him. However, as I sat in that sterile doctor's office, my mind wandered, and doubts began to seep in. Sarah had always maintained a close friendship with her ex-boyfriend, Matt. From before we met, they had dated for 4 years, and I always knew they were still in touch. I had tried to brush it off as innocent friendship, but as time passed, it nagged at me more and more. They would text frequently, grab coffee, and even attend events together. Each time I saw them together, I felt an uncomfortable knot tighten in my stomach. But I trusted Sarah. I had to. Yet, as I sat there contemplating Ethan's diagnosis, my mind spiraled. I remembered all the times she had said, "He's like family to me." It suddenly took on a different meaning. What if there was more to their relationship? The thought of it consumed me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something crucial. After days of turmoil, I made a choice that would haunt me. I decided to take secret paternity tests on both of my kids. It felt like a betrayal, but I justified it as a necessary precaution. I reasoned that if there was even a small chance that Ethan, or Lily, for that matter, wasn't mine, I needed to know. I couldn't ignore the doubts swirling in my head any longer. The day the tests came back was a mix of relief and dread. Both tests confirmed what I had always wanted to believe: they were my kids. I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me, but it was quickly overshadowed by the realization of what I had done. The act of testing them had betrayed Sarah's trust in a way I hadn't fully understood until that moment. But Sarah found out. I had been careless with the paperwork, and she discovered the tests while organizing some files in our home office. The confrontation was swift and devastating. She stood there, tears in her eyes, visibly shaken by my actions. I watched as the realization of my doubt crushed her spirit. She felt betrayed, and I understood why. Sarah accused me of never truly trusting her. "I've been nothing but faithful to you," she cried. The hurt in her voice cut deeper than any knife. I tried to explain my reasoning, but every word felt inadequate. I had spiraled into paranoia, convinced that my fears were justified. And now I was left with the aftermath of my choices. The rift between us felt insurmountable. In the days that followed, our home turned into a battlefield of silent treatment and sorrow. Every interaction felt like walking on eggshells. I saw the pain in her eyes, a reflection of the trust that had shattered between us. I couldn't help but feel guilty. I had allowed my fears to dictate my actions. And in doing so, I had damaged the very foundation of our marriage. Our friends began to notice the tension. We used to be the couple everyone envied, the ones who supported each other through thick and thin. But now, we were just 2 people trapped in a web of distrust and hurt. My heart ached as I watched our kids play innocently in the backyard, oblivious to the turmoil around them. I wanted to be the loving husband and father I once was. But my internal struggle weighed heavily on me. As the days turned into weeks, I began to see a counselor, hoping to navigate the emotional wreckage I had created. I learned that trust is delicate and takes years to build, but it can be shattered in an instant. My therapist encouraged me to focus on rebuilding that trust with Sarah. To own my actions and to communicate openly about my feelings. I realized that I had to make amends. Not just for her sake, but for my own healing as well. During this time, I made an effort to reconnect with Sarah. I reached out with small gestures, flowers left on the kitchen table, handwritten notes expressing my love, and heartfelt apologies. I knew it wouldn't fix everything overnight, but I hoped it would show her I was willing to fight for our relationship. I wanted to demonstrate that I understood the gravity of my mistake. One evening, as we sat on the couch together, I took a deep breath and shared my feelings. I explained how I had been grappling with my insecurities and fears, and how they had spiraled into actions I regretted. I wanted her to know that my doubts had nothing to do with her worth. They stemmed from my own anxieties. I could see the walls she had built around herself starting to crumble, and a flicker of hope ignited in my chest. Slowly but surely, we began to rebuild our relationship. We took the time to talk about our feelings, our fears, and our dreams for the future. I made a conscious effort to support her and to actively listen when she shared her thoughts. It was during these honest conversations that I began to feel a renewed sense of connection. One day, while we were out for a walk, we passed a small park where families gathered. I watched as children played on the swings, laughter ringing in the air. It was a simple moment, but it hit me hard. I realized that our kids deserved a happy home, filled with love and trust. I felt a sense of determination wash over me. I was committed to ensuring that our family thrived. As time went on, Sarah and I learned to navigate the challenges that life threw our way. We worked together to establish clearer boundaries regarding communication and trust. I began to recognize that vulnerability is an essential component of a healthy relationship, and I had to let go of the need to control everything. The journey wasn't always easy, and there were days when old insecurities crept back in. However, each time I felt that fear rising, I reminded myself of how far we had come. I learned to trust Sarah again, and she began to trust me with her heart, too. In the end, my experience taught me that love is not just a feeling, it's a commitment to understanding and supporting one another. While my actions had put a strain on our marriage, the work we put in together made our bond stronger than before. I emerged from this ordeal not only as a husband but as a better partner, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead with my wife by my side.